Hey RP, welcome to the stream. I will literally be switching to the live scene very shortly. Just bear with me, I'm just in the middle of something. Bear with me guys, I'm just getting YouTube's chat up. We've got someone on YouTube, welcome to the stream. Don't know what language that is, but hello and welcome. Thanks for subscribing, dude. So, welcome to the stream, guys. Welcome back. My name is Mike, aka Decimal Punked, and we are back in the Unreal Engine 5.7.4. Those of you that have been following the past few live streams would have seen the development I've been doing on this simulation game, which is to do with organising objects and putting them where they need to go. This is essentially where we're at the moment. We spawn in objects via a spawner just above there. We've got a hotbar of sorts at the bottom left. You can highlight the objects and you can click and basically move it, and you see at the bottom left the hotbar slot is highlighted to indicate that's where the item goes. And then if we were to can't click through it, I fixed a bug yesterday, we drop the item and it goes back to 0. And essentially that's kind of where we're at. So we've been doing a fair bit of work on a lot of things. What we're going to be doing this stream is we're going to be going through I think there's 35 assets. If I just go into the spawn manager prop list, we've got 35 different objects. So we're going to be hopping into Blender and we're going to be making images for each item that is currently in the game. And this item will then be appearing on the hotbar as an image. I spent a little bit of time just before I went live flipping through YouTube, just looking into hotbars and how other people have done it. I've not done a hotbar before, but there's things like data tables and structures, and I've not used those before. The way mine works at the moment is I was working on this last night. I was a little bit tired and I did have to end the stream, and I hadn't planned this out on paper. I know in my head how it should function. But essentially it was just about kind of switching between the slots. So I might try a different approach. There might be some experimentation this evening, as it's not something I've done before, but it's nice to document the learning process, and you know, once something's implemented, going back and just basically reworking it and refining it if it needs to be. I also have some exciting news, guys. I'm now a Twitch affiliate, I think it's called. So I can now get like subscribers and things. It's all completely brand new to me, but I got the email literally this evening, so it's quite exciting. So yeah, thanks to you guys for just chatting away and joining me on the stream. So thank you for being with me on this journey. Right, so what we're going to start with then, if we go to the spawn manager, we've got those items, and if we go to our blueprints, we've got all of the things here. Now, when I was watching these videos with the data tables and the structures, it was quite interesting. And I can kind of slightly get my head around it. I've not really read into them too much, but I'm wondering about how they work and how it might be good to somehow implement a structure. Because on our actors, if we go to the pickup, we have the pickup name. We've got like the static mesh. Because I went through for all of the objects, and like if we double click one, you can see, you know, it's got its pickup name. So there's just quite a lot to wrap my head around. So if we just, I'm just going to go into the hotbar. I just want to simulate the game. So at the moment we can't rotate through. If I left click, I can't rotate through the hotbar because we've only got one item. If I click again, we can now cycle through the hotbar. You should be able to just see that at the bottom left there's a yellow outline on the active slot. So essentially the way we're doing this is providing that we have more than one item, we're setting the active slot to whatever that is, and then we're switching on int to basically highlight the relevant slot. It's a little bit tricky. What's happening here is we need to basically say if there's one item in the hotbar, the player can't use the wheel. Attach the interface to the camera so the objects will click through some of the same. Oh dear. That sounds funny, dude. How's your game coming along? So essentially what's happening, what we want to do is we want to say set the slots to the you basically want to set the wheel, you want to set that to whatever the length of the inventory is. So if it's yeah, if it's greater than 1, we allow the scroll, and on the first person player we're just basically doing, if it's mouse wheel up, we'll scroll right through the inventory. If it's mouse wheel down, we'll scroll left. I really need to look into Godot at some point, RP. I'm curious about it, especially because it's free. So if we look at the logic I worked on last night, there is essentially no limit to this. So what we want to do is we want to say the switch on int slot 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Right, bear with me, bear with me. I need to get my head around this. It's confusing because if the length of the array is 0, there are no items. But the first item... Welcome to the stream, Binary. Thanks for tuning in. How are you this evening? What we want to do is... The confusing thing is, essentially, when this has one item, the length is going to be an integer of 1. But over here, computers count 0 as 1. So essentially, the first item will be 0 on the int switch. So what we need to do is we need to say we need to basically say get the length of that and then kind of minus 1, because that way, let me just think about this. Right, if the length is... That is correct. So if the length is greater than 1, we are allowing the mouse scroll. That's what's happening in that logic there. Okay, so I'm just going to move it over here so I don't get myself confused. I'm doing this slightly different binary. I was just saying that before the stream, I was watching, well, I was flipping through some different videos on how people do inventories, because I've not done one before, and... Well, a hotbar actually. It's essentially a hotbar functioning as an inventory. And they use structures and data tables. I've never used those before, so I'm doing it in a way that I believe will work. And I'm interested to look into the structs and data tables because from what I saw, I can see the use in them. But I don't want to do that straight away because I've not done them before, so I don't want to waste loads of time. So I'm going to try and get this functioning in my head out how I think it will work. So we're only allowing the ability to cycle through the hotbar provided the player has at least one item. And then what we want to do is we want to get the active slot, which is currently at 0. So we want to get the active slot, and I'm just wondering if I might put this as I might promote that to a variable, you know. I might do that quickly. Wait, where's my ref? Inventory manager ref, okay. Get the inventory. Or what I could actually do, instead of just overcomplicating this, what I might just do is get the length. This is really annoying. Hold on. If I call it inventory size, is this MATLAB? Welcome to the stream, Dato. This is Unreal Engine 5.7.4. I'm developing an Organiser simulating type game. I'll just quickly simulate it. The idea is you get hundreds of objects and you basically have to pick them up and then take them away to a storage place, organise everything, and once the entire level's cleaned up and being put on the shelves, level complete, move on to the next. So I'm getting the functionality in at the moment, and we're currently working on the hotbar. So I'm in blueprints at the moment. Right, so I'm just wondering if I can keep the ref of the inventory manager, but also I may as well actually set the length. If I call it inventory held, maybe. So we want to get the inventory, and then if we get the, oh my god, Jeet, welcome to the stream. Thank you very much, Doto. What do you mean, what am I doing? I'm working in blueprints, dude. Right, we are going to promote this to a variable. And we're going to call this inventory quantity. Okay, so whatever the length is the quantity. So if there's nothing in there, it's going to be 0. If the player is holding one item, then that value is going to be 1. Now, when it comes to cycling through the objects, if the player has one item and we're setting the active slot, then the problem with that is it will go straight to 1, which is actually slot 2. So we're going to say, gonna get the inventory quantity and then -1 and set the active slot as that. And that way we can control the switch. So inventory ref, the inventory length. If it's greater than 1, allow the middle mouse. If it's greater than 1. So if I pick up an item at the moment, I can't use the middle mouse because we've only got one item, but if I pick up a second, now we can... Oh, that's interesting. Oh, that's because I unplugged it, sorry. If it's greater than 1, we allow the middle mouse. I'm just going to plug this back in just to see how it was functioning. Alright, pick one up item. I can't do anything. If I click on the next one, we can cycle through all of it. But we don't want to cycle all the way to the end. We only want to cycle through however many items we are actually holding, which is 2. Okay? So I'm going to unplug this. And we're not going to set the active slot. Actually, hold on. No, that would be right. So get the active slot, get the inventory quantity, and then we're going to set the active slot so the active slot is currently 0. So we would basically get the inventory quantity. No, you wouldn't want a -0. Sorry, bear with me, guys. I'm just getting my head around this. If we're holding one item, we can't cycle. If it's greater than 1, we've got 2 items, so we should be able to go to that. So set the active item to inventory. Right, so if that's 2 minus 0, it's always going to be 0 because the active slot is 0. The active slot is going to be inventory quantity minus 1. It's always going to be minus 1 because of the way computers count 0 as 1. So that's technically 1, 2, 3, 4 to us. So inventory slot minus 1. So each time we do mouse wheel up, we're going to be getting inventory quantity and then minus 1. And you want to clamp that at 0. Actually, So clamp that to a minimum of 0 and a maximum of 3 because we've got 4 slots. Set that. So inventory -1. So if the inventory is at 1, we deduct 1, making that 0. So it would be stuck at 0, and that would be the active slot, which would be correct. So for example, if we were holding 2 items in our inventory, it would be inventory quantity of 2 -1. Unreal Engine Clip Zone, welcome to the stream. So if we had 2 items held, the inventory quantity would be 2 minus the 1, making it 1, setting as the active slot, which means it would be slot 2. That should work quite nicely. Right, now this bit would keep incrementing upwards. Oh, we need to also do that. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to copy this. So we can basically test that this... We can test that the... Why is that at a piss angle? I literally just straightened that out, dude. There we go. So we can test that we can at least use the slot wheel to go forward or scroll right on the hotbar. So let's just try that. So there we go. Right, so I'm going to pick up one item. I can't scroll at the moment. If I pick up my second item, it's not letting me scroll. Pick up another one. We're on 3. Active slot selection. Inventory quantity. So when we construct the graph, we're setting the inventory ref and we're also setting the inventory quantity. And the inventory quantity will be 0 by default. When we pick up an item, oh, I remember. I spent a tiny while yesterday flipping through this logic, thinking, I am sure I had like a thing that added to the inventory. Oh, I see what's happening. Oh no, it's not working. Inventory quantity is always going to be at 0. I'm not setting the inventory quantity. This is setting the reference. That's setting the inventory quantity as a reference, but nowhere else am I actually setting the inventory quantity. So what we're going to have to do is when we cycle right, we're getting the length of that, and then we're saying if we're carrying more than one item, then we allow the scroll. So what I then need to do is I then need to also set the inventory quantity based on the length of the inventory itself, and then on that basis, this data going into the clamp and setting the active slot will be correct. That is why it wasn't doing anything. So we're going to bring this back, like Moloko. Bring it back, sing it back to me. So we're going to set the inventory quantity based on the length of the actual inventory. And then that logic there will work. So let's give that a test. So we're expecting when we pick up one item, I can't scroll more than one slot. If I pick up the purple pencil case, did you see that? I managed to go to slot 2. If I then pick up the yellow and then the green, I should be able to... Ooh. Interesting. That jumps straight to 4. Okay. Set the inventory quantity. You want to do it in increments of 1, so you want to find out what the active slot is. Okay. When we cycle right, set the inventory quantity to that. Then what you want to do is you want to also kind of get the active slot. So you want to cycle through it in increments of 1. So set the inventory quantity. Each time we use the middle mouse up, we're going boom. So set the length of that, and then what we're going to want to do is you're basically going to set the active slot. So essentially, you want to get the active slot and then you want to add hold on one sec, guys. I think that's going to be the right logic. So get the inventory slot, sorry, the amount of items held, minus it by 1 so that it aligns to the active slot. And then you add this to the active slot. So for example, if our active slot was 1, which is the second slot on the hotbar, let's just do a quick brain maths here. If our active slot is 1, which is the second slot, and we were to do a mouse wheel up and then say that we had 3 items held, this would be 3 minus the 1, which would be 2. 2 plus 1 is 3, which would then take us to the 3rd slot. Fucking hell, this is confusing me. Let's just see if it works. 1st slot, I can't wheel up. We go to the next one. Okay, that allowed me to cycle right through there. Let's try that again. Get 1. I'm going to click and then go do. Right, that allowed me to go all the way through there. Maybe instead of this, because this allows infinite scrolling. We want to say inventory quantity is 0. We know that's 0 at default, so when we pick up an item, we know that the array itself is going to be there is actually a much easier way of doing this. Bear with me, guys. Going to be in there. Okay. So if on left mouse, at the point we grab the object, we're picking it up. So in there, you want to set inventory quantity. So you basically want to say +1. Oh my god, dude. Right, so we're saying get the HUD ref, target the inventory quantity, so get it and add 1 to it and set that as the inventory quantity. So I'm just going to nip this in here. So whenever we pick up an item, we're plussing 1, and we're not allowed to pick up an item. So the carry capacity is 4. So if the amount of held items is if 4 is less than that, so if we're at 4, we're no longer able to pick up an item, so that will never go above that. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to copy this, and on the release an object, if that's true, we're going to minus 1. And I'm just going to plug this. I will amend this color-coded, commented section of logic in a moment. So when we release an object, we're deducting 1 from the item inventory quantity and setting it. So then when we do this, we're going to be cycling through based on the inventory quantity. So it'll be inventory quantity. This should work better than the current logic I've got in the thing. So bear with me one moment. So inventory quantity, yeah. Okay. So when we cycle slot right, nothing will happen if the length of the array... No, hold on, that's... You want to get inventory quantity. 0 by default. If the inventory quantity greater than 1, we allow the middle mouse. So we pick up an item, inventory quantity will be 1, but that will be the first slot. So I'm just going to get rid of this, bring this back up here. So the active slot is going to be inventory quantity. Hold on, hold on. This is where it's getting bloody confusing. So the active slot is basically going to be the item we're highlighting. If the player is... we need to be adding, we need to be increasing. We're cycling through the slots. So it is going to be inventory quantity. I'll tell you what, let's just get the active slot. We're going to be adding 1. Sorry guys, there might be people watching this thinking, what the fuck am I doing? But I've not really done a hotbar before, so I'm learning as I go. So please be gentle, do not judge. So get the active slot, add 1 to it. The minimum is 0. The maximum is that, well, basically the limit is going to be the inventory quantity minus 1. So we will not allow it to go above, we won't allow it to go past the amount of items that are held. Essentially. And then we do the same logic, but we're deducting 1. So right, let me just sip my coffee while I analyse my logic. So let's think about this. If we had 4 items And I think that will work. Let's just give it a go. So what I'm expecting to do is to be able to cycle backwards and forwards or right to left. So at the moment, we can't go left or right because we've only got one. If I now click this, we're at 2. Can you see that, guys? I'm moving left to right on the hotbar. If I now go to this blue one, we're on the 3rd one. So now it's working. It's fucking working. Can you see that at the bottom left? It's allowing me to cycle through the objects. You see that? Now, if I collect the 4th one to max out my carry capacity, we can cycle from 1, 2, 3, 4. We can cycle all the way through our held objects. So now, if I was to try and pick up something else, I know it won't. The logic for picking up an item will not allow me to pick up another item, therefore not adding to the quantity variable. So it works. That's fucking brilliant. I'm going to fix this stuttering on the object as well, guys. We have done it. We have got the logic in there. Now, I think this is different to how the video I was watching earlier. This is my way of doing it. This is functioning how I want it to. I want it to highlight the active slots. Now, if I was to drop this, it will put our capacity at 3. I don't know why that just said 0. Why did that just say 0? We got a 0 at the top. And now it's... But I know that I'm... It's somehow reset the... Okay, there's a bug there. I'm not sure what is causing that. So we've got a bug there. I'm just going to add the fix carry item stutter. I think that's due to it being on a 0.1 second. Oh, 1 second, guys. Right, I need a sip of my coffee. We have got it. So our cycle logic is working. I can get rid of that. Highlight slot. I wonder where that bug is. Pick up an item. That's at 1. Second item. Cycling through. Three. Right, so when I'm full and I drop an item, it resets my carry capacity to 0. Also, this is meant to have the 1, 2, right, okay, I see what's happening. Okay, right, so what we need to do, right, so when the carry... I know why that's not working. Basically, this item... Right, let me just repeat that bug. Hold on. 1, 2, 3, 4. I drop it, it goes to 3. But if I'm at 4, I click to get full baby, and then right mouse... Oh! Interesting. Okay. Right, so when... Okay. Right, so we're at 4 at the minute. So what's happening, guys, when we're at 4, if I was to drop this item, we drop down to 3. But we're still on a highlighted slot of 4. So what we need to do is when we drop an item, do you see what happened there? The moment I actually used mouse wheel up and down, it's fixed it. So basically, if we're on the 4th item and we drop, like, let's just test this. If I was on, if I picked up 3 items, so 1, 2, and 3, I cycle to slot 3, I drop it, I'm now on 2. If I mouse wheel up, so we need to say if we drop an item, if we drop an item, we also need to have something that will move us backwards to the next available slot, essentially. And like I say, I can't... I'm watching the print strings at the top left, and yeah, I don't know what caused it to... But the highlighting is working it to a degree, so... We need to basically cycle left. Because if the player is accumulating items, No, but that is getting done, but we need to... No, we do. I think when we drop an item, I think we are going to have to trigger this. Because all this logic is doing, it's saying if we've got more than one item carried, we're allowed to mouse wheel up. But the limit is how many hold out items we have. But if the play, like you saw, if I was on the 4th slot and I decided to drop the 4th item, then it's going down to inventory quantity of 3, because the logic down here deducts 1 from the inventory quantity. But we're still remaining on the 4th slot because nothing is handling the switch. So all this logic does is it's essentially just setting the active slot. So what we want to do is say, if we're cycling through it, and also if I just go down to the drop is what is allowing the object to be able to be visible again. Where was the thing I put in about setting the... Is it the inventory manager or the spawn object? The spawn object is handled when we pick up something. Spawn object, yeah. So if that object was dropped, it does set the channel, but if we're picking something and then pick up another item, okay, so let me just test this. So all I'm going to do is trigger cycle slot left from the HUD on dropping an item. I just need to play test this again. Pick up 1, 2, 3, 4. We cycle through the slots. If I drop this, we go down to 3. Okay. So what we need to do is we need to say when we release an item, we're going to trigger the cycle slot left. So what we're hoping for now is 1, 2, 3, 4. I press... Oh, I need to cycle through to the end. Right, so we know we're at 4 capacity. If I press right mouse, that should drop to the 3rd slot. Perfect. And then if we test that for the other numbers, so we'll just do the same. So if I go to this one, so we're on 1, 2, and 3, cycle up, drop it, we go to 2. Perfect. And we'll just test that for 2. So 1, 2, release, it should go to 1. Oh. Okay, it's stuck on 2. Okay. Maybe if I just remove this. Because technically, we don't really need that if. Right, 1, 2, 3. Drop that. Right, so we need to go to 2 items. So we'll do 1, 2, release, and it's gone down to 1. Okay, yeah, we don't need this branch. Lovely. Perfect. So now what we want to do, guys, under the first person is when we collect an item, similar to how we're adding one to the inventory quantity, we're going to want to cycle slot right. So basically, I just think it's nicer. So if the player picked up a white ream of paper, that becomes the first slot and it highlights to show it's the active object. If the player then picked up a second item, that should become the highlighted active object. It makes sense because the one that they're hiding would essentially go into like an invisible backpack, and then the next item picked up would be the active one. That is the kind of logical approach to that. So let's test that when we pick up an item, it is going to be cycling right as we collect. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Why are you not going right, mate? Cycle slot right. Right, let me have a sip of my coffee. Let's think about this. Set active slot, yeah. And then trigger the highlight slot, yeah. We also want to add something. I'm adding this to the job list. If last item dropped, custom event on drop item. If invent array equals 0, trigger custom event WBP HUD to set slot 1 to invisible. Okay, that's an easy fix. Why is it not cycling? So if we pick up an item, 1, 2, 3, if I go right, I'll right mouse click, we're dropping it. If I left mouse click, that then went to the left for some reason. Why when I left click is it cycling? Inventory quantity +1. Get the inventory quantity +1. Set the inventory quantity +1. And then trigger cycle right. The logical cycle right. So active slot 0, right, sorry, just bear with me guys. Inventory quantity, that's setting a reference. Active slot is the value, and then we get the inventory quantity -1 to set the active slot. Let me just try that again. Pick up an item, pick up an item. So we're on 2, if I pick this up we're on 3, but it's going backwards. One, 2. So this will be the third pickup. This will be the third pickup, but when I click it, instead of that going to the third slot, it's then gone to 1. Okay, so cycle right. Cycle right. This essentially prohibits us from going through. Set the active slot. The active slot is 0 plus 1 is 1. 0 plus 1 is 1. So it's going to be 1. Zero plus 1. And then let's think about the logic here. Fucking hell. Inventory quantity plus 1. Sorry, I'm just trying to fix a bug there. It's basically this part here. If I unplug that and put that back in there, one, two. If I drop that, it goes left. That works nicely. If we go 2, 3. I guess you just... God, it's a pain in the ass, this is. Maybe instead of cycle slot right, if I just... I'm going to sip of the coffee, guys. Bear with me. I hope you're enjoying the stream. We are making progress here. Highlight slot. The highlight slot's getting triggered in there. The drop-in is working nicely, but oh. Right, so basically we're doing a custom event here called inventory empty question mark. So we're gonna say, we're gonna call this custom event under the drop, and Let me just show you what happens at the moment. There's no active item because we've not picked anything up. If we pick that up and then drop it, we have no items. So that active slot should not be highlighted because there's nothing there. So it doesn't make sense for that to be highlighted. So we're basically at the point where we drop an item. This is where we're going to cycle the slot left, but we're going to cycle the slot left, but we're going to trigger that custom event so to handle the case when there are no items held in the inventory. So we're going to say get the inventory manager ref, and then get the array, get array. Why is that? There we go. And then you want to get the length. For fuck's sake. Length. And if that length is, if that equals 0, so this handles the event where the inventory is null. So if no items are held, because in here, when we right, inventory empty. So we need to check now that if we pick up an item, the active slot is there. If I right mouse click, it's gone to 0, but it's still interesting. Slot 1. Inventory quantity +1. You know what? Let's just go by inventory quantity instead of the array. There we go. Working. Beautiful. Okay. Okay. Right, so we are making good progress here, I feel, guys. What do you reckon? I know I've got some lurkers. You guys have gone quiet. You guys have gone so quiet. I'm not sure if we're going to need this inventory manager reference, but I'm going to leave that there for the time being. What I want to look at is... Oh, nice binary. Yeah, we're making good progress with the hotbar. We've got one item, we drop it, the highlight removes on the first slot. If we pick up items, and then I'm on my second slot. If I right mouse, we go back one. If we go 1, 2, 4, we're at max. I can go to the end. We drop it. We go back one. So essentially, when we drop an item, we want to set third slot. This is where I think structs or thingies would come in handy with some of this inventory. But the way it's working at the moment, scrolling through is nice, and it is working. So we are making progress. I just want to have a look at my logic quickly. So this is working lovely, the cycle slot left. So if we just go, if we collect 3 items and go 1, 2 and 3, I can cycle through. We're on the third slot. If I drop it, so from a free capacity inventory, releasing it takes us back 1 slot to the next available item. So this works nice, but what we need to do is figure out this section here, where inventory quantity, essentially where we collect multiple items, we want to switch to the next. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add this code inside. Alright, custom event on drop if array is 0, or basically if inventory empty, that ensures that the active slot is set to de-highlight basically. Custom event on drop item, trigger custom event, set slot 1. Right, that's one job off of the fix list. Right, if we just have a look at this logic. What I want to do at the moment we get one object, we get two objects. If I get two, I drop it, it goes down one. If I go to 3 objects, cycle up, we drop it. If I go to 4, drop it, it goes back one. What we want it to do, the next little task is to basically say, okay, we're on slot 1. If I collect the next one, I want it to jump to slot 2. So when we click, we want to go to that. So if I pick up the very first item, we know we're setting the reference there. Cycle slot right. Get the active slot, add 1. Cycle slot right. So we need it to this is what's confusing me. The cycle slot left, triggering that on dropping an item, does what I want it to do. It goes -1 on the active slot. So that's working correctly. And then we know that on this basis, the active slot, we can then, whatever the active slot is, we can then dig into God damn. I know I can figure this out. Game start, inventory slot is 0. We have no items. the inventory quantity, when we pick up an item, we're adding 1. When we drop an item, we're minusing 1. But in the event that we are holding an item and we pick up another one, it's releasing the component. What the fuck? Why is that on the end? That's the problem. That's the fucking problem right there. Bell end. Why is that at the end? Why are we setting the active slot to 0? So whenever we pick up an object, it's essentially saying, dick around and do that. But the highlight slot function is actually part of cycle slot right. Cycle slot right, it's right there. Why have I stuck that on the end like a twat? What's a bell end? It's not on this one. What an absolute peen-arse. I think that might be the fix. Hey Moonfire, welcome to the stream, dude. Thanks for tuning in. Hey, now it's working. Oh, thank fuck for that. Right, 1 object. 2, mouse wheel down, we go back. We go to that one, it goes up 1. Oh, I'm happy. It's working. Oh, that's good. Right, so we have it. Watch the hotbar at the bottom left, guys. First slot highlighted. Pick up our second object. The second slot is highlighted. The third slot. You see that's moving along. Bottom left. And now if I release the 4th object, it goes back 1. Why did that then just set the array to 0? Why did that just do that? That's a strange bug. Yeah, it's pretty good, dude. I mean, Unreal's awesome. Right, I'm going to remove this from there. And we're going to make room for this one. We're going to bring this down. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to squish this bit of logic in. We know that works. So essentially, ooh. Um, right. Okay, I feel like I've made some great progress there. Disable outline for held object. Have I done that? I think I have. So when we pick up the item, we can't click through it. If I drop it, it re-enables it. That is a job off of the list. disable outline for held object. Okay, what do I want to do next? Okay, we're going to have to somehow communicate what slot is holding what item. So at the moment, our logic basically is going by how many items we've picked up. So, I mean, we do actually have in the first person character where we are picking up the item. Okay, I think I know what to do. Sorry, my brain's going a million miles an hour again, thinking through the logic. So essentially what we've got at the moment is we have on pickup, we've got the inventory array under the inventory manager. And what it's doing is whenever it grabs something, we're basically adding, we're getting the owner of that hit component, and we're basically adding that to our array, our inventory array, so we know from that what the we know what the held object will be, what is in our inventory basically. Now what's happening at the moment is essentially in this logic we're doing a line trace, then we're picking up the object via the physics handle, and then we're basically destroying, before we've set the variables of the new object to spawn. And then we spawn that object, spawn object, object to spawn. We're basically deleting the object in the game space and creating a new instance of it. Might not be the most optimal, but that's what's happening. Is everyone enjoying the stream, by the way, guys? Hope you're enjoying. So essentially, what we can do is we can populate, we should be able to populate our hotbar icons. I'm calling it is essentially a hotbar, but it's also the inventory in a sense. It's just not a physical open a big bag and look at all your items. It's available all on the hotbar. And we know what's on there because everything's getting added to the inventory manager. So based off of that, You want to say, you want to communicate and say slot 1 is in the array, that would be index 0. And then as we scroll through and select through those objects, that changes the held object that we're seeing. So we've got a few things happening. Like if I simulate, you'll notice if I click this one and then click this one, what's going to happen is we pick up the blue, but the pink just gets yeeted, right? But we can't have that happen. The way that I've got this at the moment is the moment we pick up an object, that actually gets deleted and we're straight away spawning a new version of that. That's what's happening at the moment. And the reason I'm doing that is so that we can kind of clear it from the world space and keep track of it in the inventory, and then when we release it, we're just releasing it, and it's basically the owner would be still the spawn manager. I'm wondering of looking into this structure thing, guys, before I start making pictures for the hotbar. I think what I want to do, because I need something like... Well, I've not done a struct before. But I think if I had a struct that essentially had I think we need a struct for each slot, and then within that slot we need bear with me. So the inventory has all of the stuff. When we add something to the inventory, I'm gonna see if I can do a struct. It's basically in here, those 4 slots. It's like we need something to happen each time, like more like update inventory. So if that was like a function, I guess, based off of the script, it would populate the thing, and then what we can do. No, I've not created one before, Binary. I said at the beginning of the stream that I was watching a video on some guy that was making a big inventory for like third-person RPG style thing, and I was flipping through it just to see how they did the hotbar, but there were like 10 videos. I got to the 10th video and it was just a lot of stuff. But I was glimpsing at the blueprints and seeing how the structs work and the data tables. So I've not done one before, but I'm just thinking if I think I'd need an individual structure for each slot. So if I had 4 structures, and then within there we defined the slot, and then essentially when an item is added to the inventory array over here on pickup, we would basically activate the struct to fill the hotbar image accordingly. And we've got all the variables here. We've got the slot images. We've got slot 1, which is the border. So that's the border, and then we've got the image slots here. So yeah, well, Moon, I was basically flipping through it because I was just keeping my eye out for the information that I was trying to look for, and I was just watched the section on the structure, and I watched about 5 to 7 minutes of it, just seeing how it worked. So I guess I'm about to make my first structure. I do want to get some. I do want to generate. I've got Blender up to generate some of the still images that we need for the hotbar, but we'll do that in a little bit. I don't want to go to bed too late. I could probably stream for 1 more hour. Right. So I guess in content, I mean, should I categorize it into blueprints? I feel like I should. Well, no, is it a blueprint? I don't think it gets labeled as a structure, does it? No, it is a blueprint. So I guess I'll make a folder called structure then. Blueprint structure. So if I call this S for structure, I guess, and then slot 1. If anyone has experience of structures, don't be shy. Right, so what are we going to have in this structure? So slot 1, it's basically going to have, it should have the name. So we'll call, if I call this object name, and that will be a string. And if I just put that, you can see, for example, on my parent class, you can see the pickup name is the string. It's a string variable. So if we go on to one of these, you can see here pickup name beige paperclip, because essentially we're going to add an object to our HUD interface. So above the action bar, on a line to the left but above the action bar, we're going to have that string displayed so the player can see what object they are holding. Structures aren't blueprints, they are just for data. It's interesting you say that though, dude, because under the blueprints, when you right mouse click and choose blueprint, it is within that drop down. I know it's not got the prefix blueprint, but it's still kind of categorized under the blueprint menu. That's why I've made a structure folder within blueprints. Right, so if we have object name as a string, and then what else are we going to need? So we need to know the object name. Are we going to need to know the static mesh as well, or the actor that's in there? I guess it would be handy to know the actor. So if I put in actor reference maybe, or just object actor, because it is an actor. So if I do actor object reference, because the object that you pick up, it is an actor, so actor object actor object name. I guess we could have it as actor reference maybe. So the object name, the actor reference, we're going to want an image because it's going to go into the slot. I don't know how this works, so I'm making a structure. So when it comes to the HUD, the event graph in the HUD, is it in there that we would then is it in there that we would access this structure? Or when we pick up an item, we would then go into, we would call on this structure slot and add in the details? Is that how it works? Let me just have a read of that, dude. You might be looking for actor class since you are destroying the actor object. Well, I already know what object under the spawn, under the inventory manager binary, I've got a reference, well, the array of actor types. So basically when we pick up an object, I'm getting the actor object reference, and I'm adding that to the array of actor object references. Do you think I should have changed that so it was a purple one? So get class of actor, so that when I spawn the object. Yeah, it's a little bit complicated. What I'm doing when we pick up an actor, I'm basically attaching it to the physics handle. After that, I'm then basically finding out the actor or the owner of that component that was hit, because we're doing our thing by hit component, not hit actor. So I'm basically finding out what is the actor of that component, and that's essentially like BP paperclip beige, for example. So you're saying I need to get actor of class instead of actor of object references? Would that be the better approach, dude? Get class of owner. So should I do that instead? And then add that. So if I was to change this to an array, okay, that makes sense. So get the class. So hold on. No, that's gonna be, hold on. So looking at this logic, we're going into the component. We don't want to get the class of that object. We need to do it from that. Returns the class of a passed in object. So if I did that, and that is going to return us the actor class reference for that. And then if we were to do a print string, we can actually see what interactable object that is. Okay. Okay, now. Right, I'm gonna have. Can we convert this? Okay, so I can keep this one here, and then destroy actor. Alright, bear with me. Oh my god. Right, hold on, dude. Right, bear with me because I need to adjust this. Let me just check the rest of my logic on here. This is just gamer start events. This is the rotate feature I wanted that I've not done yet. This doesn't have anything. This is linked into this. So all of this part here I don't need. I only need to change that and this bit, I think. So what I'm going to do then, if I change... Okay, what I'm going to do, I'm going to make a new one called Inventory 1, and then I'll replace it bit by bit, and then we'll remove this variable under the Inventory Manager reference, and then I'll just rename Inventory 1 back to Inventory. So if I go into my Inventory Manager and create a new variable called Inventory 1, and this is going to be class actor class actor class reference array, compile, save. Okay, and then under here we want to get inventory 1, get the length, yeah. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to budget there. So inventory 1 length, and then that goes into there. And then if we follow the yellow brick road, we're following this yellow brick road. So these three, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'm going to just put it into here. Object to spawn. Object to spawn. We know what object that's going to be to spawn. Spawn manager. Object to spawn. I mean, that would just be the class reference. Right, bear with me. Right, bear with me, guys. So what are we doing? We are finding out... Okay, so we need to do an add. What I'm doing, it's going to make a bit of a spaghetti mess, but... Right, we're going to add item to the array. Get the owner, and then get the class of that owner. And that goes in there. And then we're going to get the length of that again. Okay. So we do need to keep this and this. Sorry, it's because I'm I'm reworking the logic with a different actor reference thing. So I'm just I've just been making sure I don't make a mistake. So get the length, and then we're adding. That goes all the way back there. So the only things we need for the array on this logic here is the length. So if I do another length, and then that would go in there. So I can then basically just move that up one, delete that one, move that back. There we go. And then with this logic, if I get that and just move that there, move that down actually. Okay, because the only thing going into this is that, but that is going in there, so this can now be removed. This, hold on, so this would go into that, and then that would go into that, and then we can get rid of that. So like that. Cast BP pickup. Okay, so that's done. Right, let's look at the rest of the logic on here before we swap out this bit. Right, so any object to spawn, instead of getting the owner, we know the class. So if I changed object to spawn, if I just made it object to spawn 1 and had that as an actor class reference, then we don't need this little bit. We would then just plug in one little purple blob. So I'm going to call it actor to no, I'll call it object to spawn. Even though it's an actor, I'm going to call it 1. And it's going to be actor class reference. Get object to spawn. We can leave that because that's just getting the vector of the existing location of the held component via the physics handle. So if I get rid of this bit, there's nothing else in there. don't believe. Right, so now we go back in here and that's looking good, isn't it? Thanks, Elias, for the spam view, I'm guessing. Oh no. Shit, what was that plugged into? Inventory manager, why did I delete that? Right, that looks good, doesn't it? What do you reckon, binary? I'm not getting any compilation errors. So what I should be able to do now is delete that. Where is that in use? Inventory. Fuck. Okay, hey, right, done. That's that one done. So now, perfect, it's called inventory. Object to spawn, we should be able to delete the old one and rename that to object to spawn. Compile, save. And then if we go back to here, missed some of it, but yeah, setting removing the class, that's good. But I also think you were going to set a struct instead, so you have, that's okay. I don't mind reworking it again. I really don't mind that. At the moment it works. We've got the way it functions at the moment. I've got, like, we haven't specified the items. We know that the items that we're picking up are getting added to the inventory array of class actors. So based on that, we know that it's whatever the first index is going to be the first slot, and then based off of that index of the array, we should be able to get the class actor and then set the image accordingly. I honestly, I don't mind reworking the logic as I'm learning about structures and potentially data tables, because it's new to me and it's a learning process, and I really don't mind if it means extra work, because I enjoy the process of learning. So, sorry, I'm getting distracted. I need to just tidy up these purple lines. They're a little bit garish. I'm not gonna lie. It's a little bit garish. Right, so we're gonna do that one. And that can, it's both from the same array, so that can go into there. That is such a strong colour, that purple. It's almost making me a bit nauseous just looking at it. Ugh. And what I might do is I should be able to just drag off of that into there and do the same for that, and then shimmy shanger it along a little bit. There we go, it looks a bit more curvaceous. Now we've got this little bugger, so let's shift that up so it doesn't overstep the boundary. There we go. Right, so now we can test this and hopefully there's no problems. Two, three, that's interesting. Yeah, it looks like we might need to rework the hotbar. The highlighting feature does work, but I think just the way the logic is with it, it can be better. But yeah, I've 1, 2, 3, 4. Right, so this is a bug we need to fix. We need to, when we release this, when we pick up, if we're holding an object and we go to pick up another one, the white one is kind of left, and then we're unable to pick that up. We need to also sort that movement out. That movement is going by carry pickup, and to be honest, I don't know why I did it on a timer. I'm wondering if on my other event it was on event tick where you're carrying the object. I wonder if that should be an event tick so it's smoother. I think that's why it's got that choppiness. What I'm going to do, I'm just going to see what happens. Right. You see that choppiness? Because the carry pickup yeah, it needs to be on event tick. Oh, that's much better. Look at that. You see that? Much more fluid. Fucking brilliant. So essentially, without the event tick, this was what was causing a stutter because the carry pickup on a 0.1 of a second. See the difference? Watch this. Pick up this. Can you see that stutter? It looks shite. So instead of doing the set timer for the pickup, this one is for the line trace. That's fine. But doing an event tick for the carry item is so much smoother. That's beautiful. Okay, I'm going to get rid of that then. That's fixed a little bug off of the list. Okay, you can call me the bug basher. Fucking hell, it's 2:07. That is so much more fluid. Super happy with that. I want to try and catch it. Sorry, I'm dicking about. I'm just really happy with how fluid that is now compared to the on-timer event. Okay, sorry, I've got to stop doing that. Right, I can remove the fix carry item stutter. Right, that leaves 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 jobs. Add a small force to releasing objects when dropped. Add rotation feature to held objects. Rework spawn manager so objects aren't yeeted. Stop the player knocking the objects. Make an unreal plastic material for the shrink wrap. Add a crosshair to the game. So there's a few tasks there. Right, let's go back to this structure then. So essentially, this is, I think, where you've got some knowledge binary. I need to check my sugars, bear with me. Got to pump some units. That's all right. So I said I've I've fixed two bugs. I think our pickup of the object and walking around with a walking around with a held object is now an event tick, so it's completely fluid. It looks amazing and crisp. So the next thing to tackle is the structures, which I think you have some knowledge on. So essentially, correct me if I'm wrong, the structure kind of acts like a bit of a holding pot of information. So in here, I need to populate this with the variables that I need, such as the name of the object that is held, the actor reference, or the object actor. I don't know what to name that variable really, and that would be a class reference. So if we were to drop that object, it would spawn it, and then we'd need an image reference as well. Oh, hold on. Not the actor reference. Yeah, class reference, sorry. Yeah, I've named it actor. Yeah, I'll call it class reference. I'll do that now, actually. So class reference. So in here, we would choose actor. Oh, fucking hell. I hate these adverts for AI model generation. It's such shit. Who wants to just take away jobs? Right, actor, class reference. Okay, so is that right then? What I was saying about a structure is essentially a pot of knowledge that we want to access. So S underscore for structure slot 1. Okay, cool. Thanks for confirming. So we've got our object name, which we should be able to get from the actor class reference. And then we're going to want another variable, which will be, if I just call it icon, because that will be going on to the hotbar / inventory. So this would be a image, the image to render for this brush. So that would be a texture 2D, right? Oh, you can't see that, but I'm hovering over this and it's going on my second monitor. But that's saying that's a texture 2D. So if I said texture 2D, I'm assuming it would be object reference. Would that be right for texture 2D object reference? I just need to do something under project settings. One video I saw, it said something about shadows. Shadow map method. Select the primary shadow mapping method. Automatically uses shadow maps when forward shading is enabled for the project, as virtual shadows are not supported. Render geometry into virtualized shadow depth maps for shadowing. Provides high quality shadows for next gen projects. High efficiency culling when used with nanite. So I want to choose shadow maps, I think. Render geometry into shadow depth maps. Requires manual setup of shadowing distances and only culls per component, causing poor performance with high poly scenes. Required to enable stationary baked shadows. So would this increase the performance of this game? Because it is essentially a low poly game. It's not gonna... We're not modelling super high detail stuff. I wouldn't say it's high poly, high detail. You've seen the style. Some levels, like the tabletop miniature, they might be slightly more tries. But if I select shadow maps, am I right in assuming that would increase the performance? What do you think? You're not sure? Okay, maybe I'll leave that for the moment then. Okay, so going back to the slot, object name, which will be displayed when highlighted. What else would we need for the slot structure? Because let me read that, one sec. No, what you're saying makes sense. Because if I... No, I don't think it would actually. The object name is under the blueprint. So under here, the object name is here. Sorry, that was on the wrong thing. I've got the string, which is the object name. So under the class, yeah, so under here we've got the pickup name, which is a string. And then the class is Ream White. So we know the class and we know the string. I mean, if I added a variable, can I add texture in here? So if I did icon, so I can literally have everything in here. CDO actors. So if I now close that and went into this, for example, I can basically go through all of my assets that I've got, blue actors I've made, and once I've generated the icons, I can just go in here and set that. So then under the structure, we just need the class reference, right? Because we can access the object name and the icon. Is that correct? Okay, it makes sense to have that way, so it's, I guess, more optimized. It makes sense to do it that way and read the data from that one thing. Is there anything else for this structure you think I need for the slot? You've seen how it functions. It's basically a hotbar. We're not having an RPG inventory system where we press tab and you get a big window showing your entire inventory. The hotbar is the inventory. So what we need to know is we're basically going to read. I guess, is there some way that you can... So when we pick up an item, I guess you'd need to find out like the slots. Depends on what you want to do with it once you have it in your inventory. So when we pick up items, the slot could be the array index. Correct, yeah. So under this structure then, where I've named it structure slot 1, all I technically need is the class reference variable. I don't need to add in anything else there. So can we set the class reference of a structure from the blueprint of the first person character, for example? Right, so the idea is what will be happening is we've got 4 slot carry capacity at the moment. The player can pick up to 4 items. When those 4 slots are full, they can't pick up any more. What will happen is I'll be creating storage units that the player will approach, and when they get in the collision box of that storage unit, they will then be able to deposit the item into that storage container. It would then remove that object from the game. Welcome to the stream, Long Arm. It would then remove that object from the inventory hotbar, and it will it will add 1 to the number of objects that has been stored away. So there's 700 items in the game at the moment. The player stores one of the items. It basically adds 1 out of 700 items stored. Do you not think? I'm just trying to think of the most optimal way of handling this. Because this is the core functionality of interacting with the objects. I'm hanging, dude. How are you doing, Long Arm? badly. What's wrong? I should be okay, like what? Are you about to write a big message about what you think might be? Well, I hope you're okay, Long Arm, whatever it is. I was just concerned using CDO. So CDO means actor class's default object. Requires that you do not modify actor's name or icon if you place any instances in the level and change the name from its default. I wouldn't be changing the name, nothing's getting changed. Like, things, there will be instances spawned in the world, and those spawned objects, the idea is to pick them up, take them where they need to be stored. So the pencils will go in the pencil boxes or for the different colours. So the player picks up the pencil, it adds it to the hotbar. The player can then take that to where it needs to go. When clicking or depositing the pencil, it then updates the total objects stored to +1, and then it will delete that instance of that actor. I'm not going to be changing names or icons. So do you think a structure is the right way to go, or I'm just trying to think the best way to handle because the way I've got it at the moment, I know some of the logic's a tiny bit iffy with the cycling through and setting the highlighted object or the active object. Okay. Alright. The one property being the actor class reference. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, Long Arm. Maybe just keep an eye on whatever you've breathed in. Sounds a bit dodgy. I'm just trying to think of the best way to do this. We've got 4 slots. If yeah, I'm still here, dude. Yeah, sorry. I recently this evening I got affiliate with Twitch, so I'm now I think it's called Twitch affiliate. Um, yeah. So I think I get adverts, but yeah. So sorry for the adverts. But to be honest, if there is ever any money generated from it, it really will help because um, yeah, I've had to pay out a shit ton this month. Like I'm not even joking, dude. Like I've had to buy a GoPro for a photography job, and I've had to renew my Adobe software that's costing like £325. It's fucking ridiculous. Like there's so much coming out. I've got my website renewal. It's just, so I do apologise for the ads, but it will just help me like financially. So even if it's like pennies, it all adds up. I'm just wondering with the logic, because at the moment we haven't. What we've worked on with the hotbar is basically the cycling and highlighting feature. So so we need to generate the icons, and then I guess within the logic here, it's kind of like maybe if we need to have something to track what's in the slots, because the slots, they're essentially, I mean, we've got variables here for the images, we've got variables for the frame, because I'm basically using a border. I don't need buttons or clickable things. This is just visual feedback for the player, so I'm using the border, what is that, the border, a border widget, so, or component. Yeah, so essentially the border gives the feedback of the active slot. So it's kind of like maybe if we had, I don't know, another, the active slot is an integer, and the reason that's an active slot is because that is used for the switch on int. But maybe we don't need that. I don't know. This could be reworked. I know that the logic in here, this is working nicely. There's one or two iffinesses, like the way, I know that could probably be reworked, but the idea was that when the player picks up an item, we're storing it in the inventory array, so it's like it does need to be removed from the game world. We physically need to remove it because we're now holding it, and then if we drop it, we spawn it again via the spawn manager. So I feel that process is correct, the way I'm handling that. Correct me if I'm wrong. So I'm just thinking, if we had an instance inside the HUD, a custom event that would be, I don't know, something like, struggling to think, something like refresh or update update inventory. So if items are removed, it will kind of switch to the next available slot. It's tricky, isn't it? Because the inventory quantity that is set, that inventory quantity is set under the player. So whenever we pick up an item, we're adding one to the inventory quantity, and when we drop an item, we're removing one. So it's almost like what we want is we want an automated process. So when the player collects an item, if they don't scroll through them, we're basically setting the, if they pick up one item, that then becomes the active slot. If they then were to pick up a second item and not scroll through the 2 slots, it would automatically highlight the second one. So thinking about the logic here, we need something to say populate or fill slot. So it finds next available slot. This is why I'm wondering if I should add 4 variables for. Oh, fucking hell, it's a bit of a nightmare, this. It's almost like you need a boolean to say is available. So you've got 4 slots. It should go chronologically, or numerically, sorry. So slot 1, 2, 3, 4. If the slot 1 is full, then add the item to slot 2. So it's almost, I don't know whether to do this as a function where we populate the slot and then the slot to be populated. Do you think doing it as a function might be a good idea? So if we had a function for find available slot, I'm wondering if we had an array of available slots. And that could be of border widgets. Let's try this. So available slots. A border is a container widget. I think that's the right one I need, not the slot for the U border slot contains the widget displayed in a board. I think it's this one I need. And that would be object reference array. And then unavailable slots border. Yeah, you could use more. By use, I mean make more functions. Okay. So on event construct, set the inventory manage ref. I don't know why I did that. I don't think I even need that, but I'm just going to leave that there. We've got the get the length set inventory quantity at 0. And then I guess in here, we would, can we get all border widgets or? Or if I just add them all. Isn't there a way that you can quickly add it? What was the shortcut? I'm sure there was like a... Oh, there's got to be a quicker way of doing that. Oh. For fuck's sake. Oh no, I'm being a bell end. Sorry. I'm being an absolute peen-arse. What a twat. What an absolute bell end. Why can I not add that in there? Oh, surely I don't have to just do 4 different sections. That doesn't make sense. I can't have this 4 times. That just seems a bit overkill. Is there not a way that I can just do this by bulk? Like, it won't let me... On here, if I do that, and then if I drag one here, And then if I click on that, no. Fucking adverts. I mean, would both methods work the way that I'm doing it, or what you're suggesting? Would both ways yield the same results? I'm feeling this might be better for me. I don't know, because for me, I was gonna have a function that would, because obviously on game start, like we're doing here, event construct, would basically just say all of these slots are free, and then as you play the game, when you get an item, it would look for available slots, and it would filter by integer, so it would look for the first entry in that array, which would be slot 1, slot 2, and work numerically. And then as a slot is occupied, it's added to the unavailable slots, so that the next time the player gets an item, it will check available slots and pick the next one. That's in my head. I don't know. That's it just seems an easy way for me to just, you know, well, just understand, and it works for me. If it works, and I don't know if it's an optimized way of doing it, but I might actually just do this as a function. Is it out? How do I do? How do I do the outfit? Is it finish or output? What's the thing to get a output? I just do that, don't I? Just like that. So on event construct, so that will trigger it, won't it? So this slot setup, its purpose is to just basically on event construct, just say these are all the available slots, and obviously at this stage of the game and development, I'm just doing 4, but we'll probably oh, okay, so I don't need that. Just like that then, yeah? So just calling that function is basically triggering it, isn't it? Similar to how you trigger custom events. Cool. Alright, so on game start we're saying all 4 slots are available. And that's going by the available slots. And then as we play the game, we'll basically, I guess, maybe have a function for find available slot. And then maybe you would have a slot setup is game start. If there was a function then for add item, add to inventory, and then remove from inventory. So the add to inventory would basically, it would search the available slots numerically, and then if one wasn't found, it would go to the next one, so on and so forth. And then when one is found, it would then store the, well, set the icon, and this would all be based off of the actor. I'm just wondering if we, no, because the inventory manager keeps track of the actors we've picked up, and then down here we're removing as we drop them. So I feel like it needs to be the integer for the one that's... Right. I think what I need to do, guys, is go to bed. My boys are going to have me up in like 4 hours. So what have we done tonight? I feel like we have made some good progress. We've got this all nice and fluid now. And if we pick up another object, we can cycle through the available items. I know that this is going to be a lot better when we get the logic in within the what's it? Because then we can handle stuff, because like there's a lot of logic in here that can probably be reduced, and the way that the HUD and setting the active object can probably be refined even more. So game start, these are the 3 slots. As we play, a new function, add item, add inventory item, remove inventory item. Two extra functions there. And then as for the highlighting the slot, this part is the user interacting with the hotbar. So by doing the functions and just modifying the way it works, I think it's going to be much better. It just needs a lot of work, and once this is nailed, the rest of the game's going to be a breeze, you know, with just storing the items and, you know, the game loop. So yeah, I think that's going to be good. What I'm going to do then, guys, I'm going to call the stream there. If you enjoyed watching and you're on YouTube, feel free to subscribe if you want to stay up to date, and the same for Twitch viewers. If you haven't already, feel free to follow, and if you want to see any of my previous streams, you can check out my YouTube channel in the panel below. I've got playlists for Unreal, Unity and Blender. So thanks for joining me tonight, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm not sure if I'm going to be back on next week because I am off to Scotland for a week. So I won't be streaming until I'm back. But when I'm back, we'll be straight back into the dev. So so this might be the last stream for about a week. But stay tuned. And if you get bored in the meantime, feel free to check out the past streams. Take care, guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Ciao, ciao for now.